On YouTube, you have 5 to 10 seconds to hook a viewer, or else. Are you still there? How do you create a hook that grabs new viewers? That's what we're talking about today on the Digital Chick Podcast. Hi, I'm Darren Strauss, and I have created videos that have garnered hundreds of millions of views for different clients, and I am also an avid YouTube binge watcher. Oh yes, I am. So I have broken down the essential things that you need to do to create an irresistible video hook. You hook the viewer in the first 30 seconds of your video by stimulating their brain. And how do you do that, Darren, you ask? Well, everything in your content should be activating on the same thing, curiosity. Will someone be curious enough to want to watch this video? In the first 5 seconds, what they see and what they hear matter the most, and then you've got 15 to 45 seconds to get your story hook in, or they're out. Okay, so you're like, Darren, I'm not making Breaking Bad here. I'm talking into my camera and I'm making thumbnails with the free version of Canva. So let's be real here. If you have 5 seconds to hook a viewer, and if you're creating personally branded content that's pretty straightforward, how do you grab their curiosity? Well then, 1, dopamine is a hormone in our brains that is all about arousal and pleasure. To produce dopamine in your viewer, you need a story that gets their excitement pinging. You could stimulate dopamine with a bold question. You ask a question that they must know the answer to, something that they need to know the answer to, or they will lose their mind thinking about it. That stimulates dopamine. So you click. Cortisol is the stress hormone, and it's not super great as a life thing, but in content, it adds a little risk and some thrill. Stimulate cortisol with a provocative opening statement. Give some crazy statistic or make a bold statement that's the opposite of what everyone else is saying to raise the cortisol just a tad. You stimulate the viewer's brain to think, oh, heads up. You need to learn this, ma'am. But too much cortisol can cause your audience to feel uncomfortable. In my case, it caused me to gain like 50 pounds at one point, but that's another story. But bringing in a little risk or your fears or your personal struggle adds intrigue, especially if the hook of your video is you solving this stress point for the viewer. You get me? Oxytocin stimulates empathy, and it will help your audience trust you more. You can trigger oxytocin and endorphins by being vulnerable, both by revealing your struggles and your pain points or being funny. To produce oxytocin in your viewer, you need to be vulnerable and honest and human. Maybe you share your own past and your struggles, or why you became a YouTuber in the first place, because you lost your job or you were unhappy, or maybe your career wasn't fulfilling. Whatever that may be, it evokes empathy. Endorphins make you happy. They make you laugh. They make you smile. To trigger endorphins in your audience, you include a humorous moment, an embarrassing story, or something unexpected, like a huge fail. Joyful surprise is a vibe. Visual hook. On YouTube, you need to think about this in 2 ways. Your thumbnail and also the shots in the beginning of your video, because people hover over your thumbnail to see what your video looks like. And if it looks dull, they may not click on it, no matter how good your title and thumbnails are. You don't necessarily need to sustain that editing style all the way through the video, because a lot of you are churning out 2 to 3 videos a week, but it does hook them visually right at the get-go. Camera moves, camera effects. Without going too crazy, perhaps you can bring in a camera move or a camera effect, or even maybe move yourself into the shot. I actually just moved myself out of the shot, but you get the point. Something that offers some kind of movement or visual stimulation in your opening frames. Mood music. Find some royalty-free music to layer in a mood and some drama. Or maybe you add some sound effects. This only impacts a viewer after they click to watch, but it may keep them there. Okay, hear me out. A cold open where some crazy shenanigan is happening. You think one thing, and no, something else. A video with an opening twist that makes people ask, how will this end? will sometimes stimulate all the hormones. This ain't easy. It involves bringing in lots of different elements like sounds, editing, effects, and a good script. But if you can do it, it is very memorable. Okay, guys, now we have mastered the video hook. But there is a difference between your hook, what you're using to get people to start watching, and your story thread, what you are doing to get people to keep watching. But we'll talk about that in our next video. And with that, I'm using another story mechanism, the cliffhanger, because I'm coy like that. So maybe you should subscribe and come back for part 2, where we will talk about how to create a super compelling story thread on your YouTube channel. Until then, I will see you soon.